Hello, 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 and welcome to the normal edition of the Cheap Seats. It's not a special edition, it's your normal weekly edition of the Cheap Seats. The European Soccer League Super League has come and gone, and all we're left with is just normal football. I'm disappointed, I know about anyone else. But we're back to the normal grit and grind, teams fighting for top four, teams fighting for to not be relegated. Norwich have been promoted. Well done. Congratulations. Sheffield have been relegated. We kind of expected that. And now we're just going down to those final 6 games in the season, or 5 if you're already ahead. And so I've got Dean and AB here to talk about what's going on. A certain manager got fired this week, so he's the 4th manager. We're going to talk about all things and his football heritage. But before we carry on, let's just go through the normal admin. Please do like, subscribe, and follow on these different platforms. You can please like and subscribe on the YouTube channel. It's really important to get us in the algorithm, the Premier League algorithms, the football algorithms, and that's what we need. But before we begin today's show, before we talk about Spurs, essentially,
sorry, I didn't hear that.
I just asked how you were doing.
Oh no, good, man. Yeah, sorry, it was like a little technical thing there. Yeah, man. Jeez, can't believe the Super League's come and gone. It's like, I mean, there's a Twitter thing about things lasting longer than the Super League, and I laughed because John Eisner and Nicholas Mahut's tennis match was there. Shame. Yeah, I'm good though.
I'll ask one question about this. We have to, but Dean, how are you doing this week? I didn't know there was an entity called ENIC or NIC or ENIC. I saw there was protests outside the stadium.
ENIC,
as well. I was like, okay, it's Spurs fans. Maybe they're not thinking. I don't know what's going on.
Look, I mean, this week was probably the craziest week I think we've had in football in years. You know, especially with me and Mourinho's whole story on Monday. So it's been a crazy week, but a good week. It's good to get a win finally. Kind of at least feeling something positive about Spurs at the moment, even though we've got a guy that's basically the same age as me in charge. But he's basically playing FIFA in real life. So, you know, dream job, why not? So,
with his friends.
Yeah.
There was a crazy stat about Gareth Bale and Ryan Mason, which has made it. I've got a lot of questions for you. One question about the European Super League. Obviously, the Big Six chickened out. Really, like if I was Florentino Perez, I'd be like, these men are weak. How can you just you take us through all this drama for you to chicken out like at the first point of resistance? But let me take my ESL love aside. What sanctions should be given to the offending club? Should it be points deduction? Should it be a transfer ban? Should it be, I don't know, maybe force the owners to sell? I don't know who's going to have 4 billion for Manchester United. Like, what should they do? I want to start with Dean while AB tries to sort out his mic.
It's hard to say because obviously it's your own club. So you say, oh, guys, everyone makes mistakes. Let's just forget about it and move along, sorry, but not sorry. But I think what's going to happen, and I think what should happen, is that the chairman of the clubs that have come together in this really have to, I don't know, it's not really a sort of deduction or a penalty or anything like that, but I think if they don't make the changes that should have come about, like putting more money into where it needs to be, looking after the club, looking after the fans, making things, like ticket prices cheaper, things like that. If there's not that immediate reaction, I think the protests outside stadiums are going to get a lot worse. I mean, Liverpool guys standing outside their stadium, Chelsea guys standing outside Stamford Bridge. Yesterday we saw Spurs supporters outside. It's just going to get worse. And I mean, I saw now like United fans are standing outside the Glazers' house, like refusing to let them in or out, so it's hectic stuff. So I don't know if, again, I think previously we've also said like it's not the players' fault, and I don't think sort of putting like a penalty on them is fair. I think it's more the chairman's issues, and like we've already seen, I mean, Ed Woodward getting, I wouldn't say fired, but resigned. I think a lot more is going to happen like that unless they do something drastic and dramatic to kind of win the fans back. So it's not really a penalty or like a sort of sanction against them, but I think the onus is on them to do a lot more for the fans and for the club going forward.
AB, there have been protests outside Manchester. Some people actually entered the training ground, which is like that's like next level protest, like breaking things. Do you want to see what's the effective way to punish the owners? Or because they're the ones who did this. Some of the CEOs only found out as this thing came out. Do you want to tell them to sell, force them to sell as the Premier League? Or do you want to say that they must, I don't know, they must pay a fine? Because I'm stuck here. Because the only thing I'm looking at is like maybe if some of the chief executives are involved, they must be fired and terminated. And the 14 other clubs must request that. And then on top of that, the owners must pay a fine. And they must pay a fine to the Premier League that will go to grassroots development. That's what I think.
Yeah, so look, I like your idea there, about paying a fine towards development, but not to line up the pockets of the FA, because all these institutions, including the clubs, are at fault because of whatever they've done, and thus they got into a situation where these big clubs felt like they were subsidizing the lower teams, and that's why they should just go to a Super League level and earn the money that they feel like they deserve to. I would love to see England specifically try and get ownership of clubs back into fans' hands. I think it would only benefit the Big Six and football in general in the UK if they could. I mean, I read a stat today that said the Glazers have cost United £1.5 billion since they've taken over, and that's in interest payments and loan payments and all of that. And that's not so. I have no problem with private ownership, as long as that ownership is used to develop football in the club and in the community and all of that, but not for the purposes of only looking at it as a business. If you want a business, go buy a company that buys and sells stuff. Don't go and buy a football club just because they have a large fan base, and then don't be that football owner, which is a little bit more than a normal business owner. So I'd love to see the government come in and try and change the ownership laws, but that's very difficult because, it's government intervention. It's a lot of laws that need to be changed. But I agree with you. Why not find these clubs, make them commit to funding grassroots development and doing a lot more CSR sort of work. And this is the final warning. You can't do a points deduction now because that would be very malicious and will only damage the English clubs going into the Champions League and Europa League. I mean, you guys, we don't want Leeds playing European football.
But that's what the ESL was about.
They're not going to defend. But I mean, if you do a points deduction now, it's going to end up in a team like Leeds playing, and you don't want them there. I mean,
I honestly think football fans are the biggest believers in fairy tales. Like the whole is what they are fighting for. But that's fine. My point is this: I think moving it back to the fans, and if you look at the German football model, the German clubs outside of Bayern Munich really break the bank for the big signings. And having a shareholder that can't put money down is the scariest thing ever for any businessman to try and do, because you're always the one who's on the hook, even because in Germany it's 51 to the fans, 49 to the private to the family, whatever it is. The thing about, and this is the reason why these clubs wanted to move to this model, was that there's always equity being put in. There's always money being put in every year. Stan Kroenke put 40 million down for Thomas Partey. But in a model that resembles more of an American one, it limits the amount of equity that you put in. The only other sport in America where you put in equity every year is Major League Baseball. And that's because you can have your salary bill as high as God knows what. And that's that disparity. The only good thing about having fans come back in is that it would level the playing fields a lot between all the clubs in the Premier Premier League because then you're literally stopping the big six from spending ridiculous, and that means that you can never go and buy Erling Haaland. You can never. And Bayern's got this model where they pick the best players out of the German league and they make them stars, small transfer fees, small similar salaries, so it makes it easier to run a club like that. And then on top of that, you get the bonus of the Champions League. But because in the UK you've already got six big clubs, and you can't guarantee yourself European football every year or Champions League football every year, you might find yourself in years where the year you miss Champions League, there's going to be an equity call on the fans. And do the fans have the money? Who knows? But it'll be a great crowd fund to fund Erling Haaland. It'd be beautiful. All 150 million United supporters worldwide putting in £1 to buy Erling Haaland, and that would be it. But enough about the ESL. We've really done enough. You're a happy man this week. Jose got fired. 58 Premier League games for Spurs as coach. He's won like 27. He's lost like get the stats. He's lost 17 times, which is quite a lot for Jose, and he's drawn 14. How happy are you?
Oh, honestly, I can't even say when. I mean, the ESL news came out Sunday evening, Monday morning. I was thinking about it. I was like, okay, this is bad. What are we going to do? You know, and then all of a sudden kind of got distracted, came back, and it was like Mourinho's fired, Mourinho's gone, whatever. And honestly, it was like Christmas morning. I can compare it to nothing else but Christmas morning, because to see him walk out the club was what I've been calling for how long, and to see it actually come earlier than what I thought it was just amazing. And look, I think no one wants their coach to fail. You know, no one has a coach walk into their club and say, "Oh, but I hope you actually destroy my club." So he did. Unfortunately, that was what he did at Spurs. And the best kind of metaphor I have for Mourinho is that he is a Nokia 3310. Like, he is the definition. It used to work. People used to love it. He used to do basic things on it, like defend and make calls and things like that on your 3310. But things move forward. The game moves forward. Technology comes, and if you don't keep up, you get shipped. And that's exactly what happened to Jose. I think his coaching styles and techniques just doesn't work in the modern game. I think what he's done to players, especially in the club, and now what we're seeing is all the reports coming out of saying, "Yo, but actually Jose did this, Jose did that." Players were fed up. I mean, there's reports that like up to 10 players were ready to leave in the summer if Jose stayed, and things that he's done I mean, we've all known it, like the way he treats players, but I think to see it at a club. And I think the biggest problem at Spurs is we went from a coach like Poch, which cared so much about the players, that was like that family mentality, you know, bringing the sort of players together, to end up with a coach that will single you out in the like open public and then expect you to react. It's too much of a change. It's too big of a swing, and it just failed. So I think Spurs are now in a rebuild. We're going to have to go into a rebuild in the summer, get a coach that now fits our dynamic, if I can call it that, and hopefully try and rebuild that way. Because I mean, Mason's good. I mean, for the interim, I don't see him sticking around for much longer. I mean, the kid's 29, so he's not going to be a coach. So he's not going to be a coach going forward. But I think what it will do is a lot of the guys that are playing in the team now played with Ryan Mason. So I think that's sort of, I know what you're going through. It's kind of that like togetherness which the club really needs right now.
So like yesterday's game, I was thinking about it. I was like, there's some guys who probably were helping him with the tactics on some nerd.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I'm sure Harry Kane was walking up and down the sidelines, even though his hamstrings.
Yeah. His knees up, but he was in the box. But I think like Gareth Bale's older than him, obviously, you know. So like, but that's not a bad thing, and I don't think that's the worst thing that Spurs could have right now. It's a case of, okay, things are really bad or used to be bad. Let's now work together. Gareth, if you think there's a better way to play, let me know. And, that's exactly what I think you want from some of those older players in your team anyway, some of that guidance. Obviously, it doesn't normally go to the coach, but it is what it is. And, I'm happy to see it. I mean, yesterday, that stat came out that it's the first time Spurs were down at halftime and came back to win a game since December 2019. And that's when Jose came. So it goes to show the sort of heart and the desires there. Look, don't get me wrong. It was a penalty that meant we won that game. So it's not like we played out of our amazing football to win the game. But to see it come back where I'm so used to Spurs falling away is the confidence and gives you, I wouldn't call it momentum, but at least it's a step in the right direction, especially for the Carabao Cup on Sunday.
So let me go to AB before I put in my 2 cents. Dean mentioned something very interesting about how the players were complaining as to how Mourinho was treating them, singling them out. But there was a time when managers would do that. I know in the early 2000s, the big managers would single people out, except for Arsene Wenger. Arsene started this whole lovey-dovey thing. It's just one of the reasons why Roy Keane calls Arsenal soft. What was it? Are Spurs players, is this Spurs team not ready? Does it lack veterans who can take that and who can move? Or was it just like a clash of personalities between the Spurs team and Jose? Because Jose's done this before. Even his second stint at Chelsea, yes, the big thing for him was there's always veterans. The Spurs side doesn't have veterans. Yes, guys have played in the Premier League, but they started playing in the Premier League like 17 or 18. Was it just a personality clash, whereas players just wanted to be loved rather than dragged through the coals every week?
Yeah, look, I think the modern player wants the manager who puts their arm around them, in public especially, and has this friendly relationship and doesn't want to be called out if you make a mistake, and doesn't want to be dropped if you have a bad game, but they'll understand it if you are dropped. I think what Jose does is he freezes out players. And you saw that with the interview from Pogba the other day. He said that one day he's fine with Jose. He's, classic Paul Pogba is doing fairly decently. And then something will happen. Something will go wrong or something will trigger Jose. And then suddenly Paul's frozen out. He's not invited to training. He's not starting. All of that nonsense. And Jose's really bad with that. Like, it's shocking because he's man-managed some of the greatest players to have played in the Premier League. Guys like Drogba, Lampard, Terry. And he's done really well with them, but they were a different generation. And we thought he was adapting at Spurs. We really did. He's transformed Harry Kane from the best striker in the Premier League, or the best striker in London, to the best striker in the Premier League. Now he's probably the best striker in the world. I mean, there's no really, probably Lewandowski and Haaland have something to say about that, but Harry Kane is up there. I think Dean is right. Jose's time has come. He's probably a little bit redundant now in club management. And I think this was a really good move from Spurs because they've got 3 world-class players. You've got Laurie, who's probably done at the end of next season. You got Son and Kane. Because Laurie is 34, 35, so he's probably going to retire.
Buffon's been playing until he's 40. He can carry on.
Exactly. Yeah, but and then you've got Son and Kane, and if you lose Son and Kane because of a manager, and if they want to leave, because remember those guys are reaching their peak. Son is the best player Asia's ever produced, and he needs to be winning trophies. He needs to be at a club whose commercial aspirations match his own personal aspirations because he's an Asian player. So both those sort of players scream PSG, Bayern, or Real Madrid, and
or Manchester United. They've got a massive.
Or Manchester United, yeah, massive. But I think this is a really good move for Spurs. I think they've bought themselves 1 year to save Son and Kane, because if they do not get a manager who comes in and qualifies for Champions League and targets trophies, they're back in the same position. Because
is it fair to put Son and Kane in this rebuild? Because I don't think so. I looked at Spurs last night, and in as much as Ryan Mason tried to bring back, I don't know what semblance of well, I don't even know what football Tottenham play anymore. That's how bad it's got. Like, because I was looking at that and I was like, okay, because everyone complained that Jose was ultra defensive and it was boot the ball up to Son and Kane. That's what happened yesterday. They weren't trying to play through the lines. They weren't trying to do triangles. And last night, I kind of felt like, obviously, Mourinho had taken the soul away. I was like, actually, what Arteta's trying to do is actually pretty good, because Arsenal's biggest problem is scoring goals, but they can get the ball to the goals. The only problem is they just can't shoot or find a way to get the ball in. And I kind of felt sorry for Spurs in that moment, because it was kind of like Ryan Mason's not that guy. But to then say we want to go back into a rebuild, when you should, at this point in time, as Tottenham Hotspur, look for that guy, because Spurs had the best squad, the second best squad outside of Man City in the league coming into it.
I think Chelsea did.
Yeah, Chelsea and those Germans, like, I get they spent 225 million.
They were
But
up there.
Spurs,
They were up there.
yes, you shouldn't be in. God knows, I don't even know where you are. Seventh, I think.
It's sixth.
Sixth now.
Liverpool can overtake them, yeah. But
yes, but you should be looking for those players in Europe that take you over the line, that make you compete with Man City, that make you take down Liverpool. But it's if you're gonna take them through another rebuild. If I'm Son and Kane, I'm not doing another rebuild. I'm looking for a club that's gonna win something. That's gonna start my legacy, because I think Kane's been playing in this league for how long? 7 years? 6 years?
Too long.
And
without winning a trophy.
Yes, not even an FA Cup, Nyana. Like, the thing I love about there's always something at the end of the season that I'm celebrating. And it seems like the FA Cup's the only thing that's keeping us all engaged. Spurs there's nothing. And there's an opportunity this weekend, as we move on to that subject, that Spurs can win. Question for you, Dean, now. Harry Kane, will he be fit for Sunday? And I'm looking at the versus Pep, and it's worlds apart. But how can Spurs beat Manchester City?
Yeah, I think, first of all, on the Kane front, no one knows. Ryan Mason was asked yesterday as well, and he said he's taking it day by day, but obviously Kane does want to be on that pitch, because exactly what we said, he hasn't won a trophy at Spurs, and I think every single chance he gets, he wants to be on the field. So I do think he'll be trying everything he can to get on that pitch, but it is a case of, if he's not ready, I don't think it's worth risking the guy. In terms of playing City, I know it's a bit of a weird thing to say, but I think I would rather play City now than I would a month ago, because you look at a team like Leeds that managed to beat a fairly strong City team 2 weeks ago, down to 10 men, and they managed to pull it off against City. You look at Chelsea last weekend; they beat City, and also not a weak City team at that. So I don't want to say City has shown their frailties, but I do think that it will kind of give us a bit of an indication of, okay, these guys are beatable. Like, they're not that invincible. Whereas I think a month ago, people were looking at City going, okay, no one's even going to touch them. So I think there's a few key players that you need to try and target in that City team. I don't think KDB will play. Pep said yesterday that he's not even looking at the Sunday game. All he's worried about is Premier League and Champions League. So I'm hoping he puts out a development team. I know, but I hope he does. But I think the key person that Spurs need to focus on Sunday is Foden, because I think that guy's playing in incredible football at the moment, and he's that connection that's moving it between the front and the back and just breaking lines at will, basically. So I think if we're covering Foden, and whether KDB plays or not, looking at him, I think we might stand a chance of getting away with something. But ultimately, and I think exactly what AB said, or what you said, Spurs were stagnant yesterday in the first half. There was no running through the lines. There was no beating the man in front of you. It was kind of like, get the ball, look up, and if there's nothing, just kick it high and wait and see, which will take some getting out of that kind of routine. I mean, it's one match, so obviously that's kind of what the players are used to. But I do think having now 3 days of training versus just 2 days of training, maybe Mason can prepare properly for this game versus Southampton. But I'd like to say that we've got a chance. Obviously, as a fan, you're always going to think you have a chance. That's what my heart says.
There will be fans in the stadium, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, and I mean, the one thing I will say is that I haven't seen a single Spurs fan on Twitter or chatting, not that there's many of us around, that isn't behind Ryan Mason. That's not giving him their full support. He spent 20 years at the club. He understands Spurs. He has that kind of pride in him. And I think that's all we wanted, that we just wanted someone that shares the same belief in the club as what we do. And he brings that. So we're kind of, you're hoping and praying on morale of the team to get through and beat City. But I'd rather go into this game with Mike Mason as my coach than Mourinho. Simple as that.
Wow. One of the greatest managers to win finals and trophies in Europe, and you're choosing 29-year-old Ryan Mason.
He also lost against drew against Newcastle, so let's call it what it is.
Avi, what does Spurs like? Is it a foregone conclusion for you this final? Because it's a massive mismatch from a coaching perspective. Like Pep can bring out a Barcelona classic from late 2000s and still beat Ryan
why
Mason.
you got to say that? Why you got to say that?
No, but the only thing in Spurs' favor is that Man City have this Champions League semi-final the following week, and so they're saved from KDB essentially, unless if things fall apart. They're probably going to get a Raheem Sterling, who hasn't had a great season. Riyad Mahrez is punching into that first team, so he might not even play. You might even get Gabriel Jesus. You'll get a Phil Foden. If you're Spurs and you're looking at this fixture, could this be the trophy that they're looking for since the last time they won it?
Jeez, I mean, the last time they won it, United won the Champions League. So I don't want Spurs to win it.
Europe, by the way.
I mean, we can't win it now. Look, I mean, if I was a Spurs fan, I don't know. I mean, on paper, I would love to have Mourinho for this cup final, because on the day, Jose can beat any single manager he wants to, but he needs to have a squad that believes in the way he wants to play. So it's probably best that he's gone, and maybe that was why he was fired a week before a cup final. How do you beat this Man City team if you're Spurs? Without Harry Kane is very difficult. Yeah, I mean, look, yeah, I mean that the way United beat them the other day, which was I think City's most humbling loss of late, was speed, counter-attack, soaking up a lot of pressure, and we actually went at them for a bit. So I think that's what Mason's probably going to say to them is just have no fear, go out and leave it all on the field. If they have Kane, it'll be a really good boost because he's quite eloquent, as we all know, so he'll probably say a few words to inspire the boys. The man is a cunning linguist. So I think it's a foregone conclusion, though. I would prefer Jose to be in the dugout against Pep because he's beaten Pep before in cup finals. But I don't know. He was the lost cause, and it's tough for Spurs, but it's also tough for City. But the thing with City is you're never going to get a weak City team. They've got so much depth. They've got guys like Mahrez on the bench, a guy who's won the Premier League and then decided to move just to sit bench. And then when he plays, he does really well. So I don't know.
They have obviously the largest squad in the UK, seemingly.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why they wanted to be a Super League team. I think for me, the only way that Ryan Mason can do this tactically is take them on the flanks. They right back, left back is a position that you can try and take on. Zinchenko tends to drift into the middle. Cancelo's not the quickest, nor is Kyle Walker's quick. But if Kyle Walker plays, you kind of feel like Kyle Walker's career's moved into center, more into the middle. So and Son on that left flank, trying to go up against Kyle Walker, you've got a mismatch there to try to exploit that. Maybe even having a Gareth Bale on the right, try and exploit that, and then try just cause problems. But do not bring the ball into the middle. They will take it away from you. They'll
Yeah.
bully you with it. It's like it's a schoolboy problem. It's like a bullying issue. Do not show them the ball in the middle. You don't have those type of midfielders, and that's where Spurs needs to actually strengthen. And that's why I think Mourinho did well getting Højbjerg, but Højbjerg's not going to be your 8. He's your 6. You need an 8. Ndombele's great. He just needs a manager who's going to teach him how to move the ball a lot quicker through the lines. I liked Celso last night. He hasn't played for Spurs in a while, so it's different. I'd even throw in Rabona Lamela somehow, maybe take Lo Celso out and bring in the Rabona man. Hopefully he won't get a red card this time. And that's going to be interesting. Obviously, John Stones is out as well, so that's another conundrum for you. But Dean, one last thing from you before we move on to find out who's been relegated. Who do you want as a manager? And don't tell me Nagelsmann, because we all know where he's going.
And that's it. Yeah, Spurs. That's exactly where Nagelsmann's going. I don't know why you're asking the question. Yeah, look, I think Nagelsmann is the guy that everyone wants. I've seen so many people draw on like what he's good at and how it fits and everything like that. But obviously that Bayern Munich call is a lot louder and a lot stronger than Spurs at the moment. So having a look at what we need and what, a youngish manager to kind of take us through that gets the best out of players, things like that. I said it before about Arsenal, and I don't think Eddie Howe is a bad call at the moment to get into Spurs. Obviously, a Bournemouth is very different to Spurs, but I think what he did at Bournemouth, taking them through, get lost, David.
No, but I'm being serious. Of the big six, Spurs is a very good club for Eddie Howe to try and move his to stink his
and he
teeth.
does. He gets, and that's what those Bournemouth players say. He was there. They fell together, and that's what Spurs thrive off of, and that's what we need. So I do think Eddie Howe, his knowledge of the Premier League, he's English. He knows what the game entails in England. Obviously, it is a massive step up. But other than Nagelsmann, I mean, I've seen Sarri linked. Please don't. I've seen Conte linked. I swear I will drive there and I'll drive them over along with Jose. I'm sick of Chelsea rejects thinking that they can come back to Spurs. So all of those three get lost. It's either for me Nagelsmann or Eddie Howe. Those are the only guys that I would take.
Okay, I think for me, Eddie Howe's ambition is what's going. If he gets the job, his ambition is going to be what breaks it. He's going to have to dream bigger than Bournemouth. He's going to have to look for players who are of that championship caliber. But he's someone that you would consider. Chris Tyndale saying AB's mic and shit combo makes him look like he's doing backstage at a golf tournament. Did you get around in today, AB, before we move on?
No, not at all.
So
just for the job you want, though, AB. Just for the job you want.
Exactly.
So, guys, Sheffield are the first team to be relegated out of the Premier League. They have a very interesting record with 6 games to go. That is the record of the longest amount of games left for you to be relegated. The other teams that hold this prestigious crown, Ipswich Town, Derby County, and Huddersfield Town. What went wrong, AB? We loved Chris Wilder last year, and John Egan, and those guys were giving us FPL points. What happened?
I think because they changed Lundstrom on FPL from a defender to a midfielder, he wasn't incentivized to play well because he obviously had himself in the FPL team. And he was like, well, what's the point? I'm just going to chill now because I'm going to only gain one less point, or I'm going to lose points if I score. So what's the point? They lost Dean Henderson, guys. Dean Henderson saved them a ton last season. And last season,
striker. What was this thing of them?
They don't.
No one can score goals in that team.
But to be fair, I should be the last person commenting about Sheffield United being a terrible team because when they visited Old Trafford, guys, they played some football.
Well, they knew that was going to be the last time that they were going to ever play at Old Trafford in a while, so they wanted to go out with a bang. But Dean, looking at the other teams in and around them, West Brom on 24 points with 2 games in hand on Fulham at 27. Burnley's on 33 in 17. Fulham's on 27 points in 18. Can Fulham and West Brom do enough to bring Burnley, Brighton, and essentially Newcastle and Southampton, who have the worst record this year in the Premier League, back into this hunt? Because that's where the problem is. Fulham is 6 points away from 5 points away from Burnley, and they need to find a way to get these guys back in. Like, can they do it, or is it just 6 points at the stage in the season is a little bit too much?
Yeah, I think 6 points for Fulham is way too much. I mean, you look at West Brom; they got 2 games in hand on top of Fulham, so maybe they might finish 18th instead of 19th if they win the rest of their games. But I mean, even if you look at the run-in of these guys, it's not like any of these guys have got games that you even think are winnable. I mean, West Brom's got Leicester, they've still got Arsenal, they've still got Liverpool. I mean, it's not like you're expecting a late surge of where they can get 15 points out of the next 5 games. Honestly, I think Brighton getting a draw against Chelsea did a lot for Brighton. Even though it's only 1 point, that's often what, kind of just makes it. And 36 points is often that magical mark. So Brighton just need another 2, and I think Burnley just need another 3. So I don't see the bottom 3 changing. Fulham did try to put up a late charge, but they've kind of fallen away now over their last couple of results, and they faced Chelsea over this weekend, so you don't really see them getting a win there. So I don't see it changing. And it's been a bad season for Burnley, Brighton, and Southampton. I mean, Southampton, I think their record was like they would be at the bottom of the log if the league started in January. Like, they would be terrible. And that coming from a team that was top of the log in December. So it just kind of shows that drop-off that they had. So there's definitely problems at all of those clubs. It's just they're the best of the worst. So unfortunately, I would of the people I'm more sad to see go, it's Fulham. I don't really care about West Brom or Sheffield. But yeah, I don't think it's going to change at all from the way it's at now.
But if Fulham get relegated, you probably get their manager, so don't be sad.
I don't think
we'll get Scott Parker in our next rebuild. Don't worry.
So James,
the
looking
next
at
season.
that, so
5 years,
looking at
3 years time.
So looking at the top 4, the teams in the top 4 didn't do well this weekend, or in and around that top 4. Leicester still yet to play. This is being recorded on Thursday. Obviously, but West Ham lost to Newcastle. Chelsea drew. Tottenham found a way to win and get themselves back in the hunt. Liverpool as well, coming through with a draw against Leeds. And the only team seemingly and so that top 4 is bunched up in such a way that you've got about, what is it? It is 5 points, 3 points separating 3 and 7. And that's Liverpool. That's separating Leicester and Liverpool. Yes, Leicester play tonight. They can open it up to 6, but there's still 5 teams in this at this stage of the season, which is going to make it quite interesting as we go down, as games become more interesting. This week, Chelsea play West Ham and trying to wrestle it. Why are the teams struggling to take it over? Was it the European Super League because some teams played on Sunday and Monday, or was it just a situation of this is the Premier League? There are some teams who also who don't want to be relegated, and they're fighting hell and leather because nobody wants to take that spot from 3 and 4 down. Well, yeah, 3 and 4. Everyone's busy like jockeying, but no one's actually putting in that killer punch, or people tired. AB.
Oh well, I mean, I don't buy into this this people being tired nonsense, because no team has played more football than United, and they played the other day and they won, and they came from a losing position, I believe. No, from a drawing position.
That's standard.
Yeah, I mean, it's classic. So I'm just like, yeah, we were losing and we won.
United, you praise yourselves from going from 0-0 to 1-0. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Exactly. I feel like Chelsea missed a huge opportunity with the Brighton game. I think they could put it down a bit to the Super League thingy. whatever it was called. But as we said a few weeks ago, Chelsea have their future in their own hands. They've got West Ham next. You beat West Ham, you're probably thereabouts. I'm a little worried about Leicester. They've lost their last two. They're playing a team who has to win and who have won their last two. West Brom are going to go all out. Leicester, we're not 100% sure if they've got the legs to finish off this season. They do have probably the worst squad from that top 7. They've just really exceeded expectations. I would love to see Leicester go through, but yeah, I'm a little worried about them. But yeah, it's this stage of the season where you have to allow, as a manager, your teams to rest, regardless of how they've just played. And I know United did that the other day. They said, "Cool, guys, you have 2 days of rest," and today was the first training session that they've had since the weekend. So it's important as managers. So if you're Tuchel, if you're David Moyes, if you're Ryan Mason and Klopp, you're going to be saying to your guys, "Cool, let's have 1 day of rest. Make sure we are set for this run-in," because no one cares about how tired you are. No one cares at this stage. It's squeaky bum time, and you gotta put up or shut up here. It's as simple as that.
Dean, what do you think?
Yeah, I think AB made a good point. I definitely think Chelsea missed a good opportunity to solidify that top 4 spot. I wasn't expecting them to draw against Brighton. Liverpool without starting Salah, and I think they kind of thought they could walk that game. And Leeds, you can easily beat Leeds 6-0 on a day, but they can also easily beat you. So you can never take Leeds lightly, and they came out to play. Simple as that. And the upcoming games will obviously be very important, but I think if you have another weekend like what we just had, where you have Liverpool draw, Chelsea draw, West Ham lose, then all of it changes the picture so much. So it's so hard to say, from last week we were saying, West Ham will finish top 4. Now they look at, they're sitting in 5th and they lost against Newcastle. So they can easily go ahead and lose again the next couple games. So it's going to be so tough to call. And I think obviously City United are done at 1 and 2 in my mind. I think it will 100% go down to probably the second last or last game of the season of when you can call 3 and 4. It's such a tight battle. Obviously, Spurs have now played an extra game, and you're sitting there going, "Oh, if we drew, if we just beat Everton, we would have been on 55, would have been in a better position." And there's going to be a whole lot of that sort of maths throwing around. So I can't make a call on it. Obviously, I want Spurs to finish 4th, given the season, and I think the players will be up for it. But yeah, West Ham I just don't see happening, and Liverpool will put up a fight. But honestly, if I had to make a call right now, I don't think Leicester or West Ham will make it. I think it's going to be Chelsea 3rd, and then either Spurs or Liverpool 4th. That's the way I see it.
The Super League teams are striking back.
We made it Super League for a reason. That's what they call it.
Well, some people would rather watch San Marino. For me, it's going to go down to the last day, and that's just going to make it intriguing. That's what makes the Premier League so great. And it's that Tottenham-Leicester game. That Tottenham-Leicester game in that final week. West Ham are lucky they get to play Southampton. Chelsea play Villa, which is very tricky for them. Man City play Everton, and if Everton's in and around them, in and around that spot, that's going to be pretty important for them. So I think for me, that's where it's gonna go down to. And the problem about Leicester is they play Chelsea and Spurs second last and last in those last 2 weeks. And so for me, that's going to be quite interesting and telling as to how their season goes, because it's not a walkover like you would assume. But Leicester just needs to find something. They need to galvanize, and they need to try and get. And that's the one thing about Rodgers' teams, that sometimes when injuries do hamper, he then all of a sudden loses that coaching mojo that we all thought he had. But he's also a shoo-in for the Spurs job, by the way. But I don't think Spurs fans would want a Liverpool reject or
Paul also.
I'm sick of rejects.
Leicester's last 4 games go United, Chelsea in the league. So United and Chelsea in the league. Then it's the FA Cup final, and then it's Spurs. And they could literally go from 3rd in the Premier League with a
They could go to
trophy
7th. Yeah.
to 7th and gone.
But if they win the FA Cup, they guarantee themselves Europe. That's
Yeah.
something that they'll be hoping to get in. Okay, gents, thank you. Let's move on to the FPL section of the show. Do not take your eyes away. Do not switch off the YouTube channel, whatever where you're watching on YouTube, on Facebook or Twitter. We'll be back in a moment with the FPL portion. And we're back again. Welcome to our FPL show. On the cheap seats, I've got AB and I've got Dean. This week, last game week was terrible. I forgot to change my captain. I would have made it Harry Kane, but then somehow I probably would have gotten 24 points, which would have helped. But then he got injured, and then someone on my left, AB, decided to triple captain him, which made it even worse for the rest of us. Diego Jota was my captain, and he just Liverpool at this time. So right now I'm hoping for a hat-trick from Ian Nacho to try and save, because I have got 34 points and I've got one man left to save me, and that's Kelly. So hopefully my Niger boy will come through. Dean, how was your week?
It was interesting. I think, Captain Kane and that was fine, but that's the first time in a long time where KDB hasn't played, so I've got a player coming off the bench, and I've got 2 players that have got red cards. So I've got Stones that got the red card last night, so he got me a solid -2. And then I've got Ben White coming off on my bench, who got a red card against Chelsea, although he got 3 points. So it would have been great if they didn't get the red cards. So I can't remember that happening. But 58 points, it's not great, it's not bad. But the big thing is now I've got Spurs assets and City assets, and they don't play. So makeshift team for the next week.
AB, how was your triple captain week?
It's good. I mean, I think I'm on 68 points, so that's really well done. I've taken the lead again. It's a slender lead by 1 point. And it's coming down to tonight where Dino has Vardy, and I have Iheanacho. So I don't know.
One's
I don't know.
getting the
Hopefully,
assists, one's getting the goals. Who is it?
hopefully it's a 0-0 draw, and then we both share the spoils. Yeah.
Okay, gents. Obviously, as always, we ask you guys to tell us your Game Week 33. Just a reminder about Game Week 33. Spurs, Manchester City, Southampton, and Fulham will not be playing in this game week. So it is a blank game week, as you would call it. So you're going to have to rejig and find ways. Why we always preach squad mentality. The only problem is I've got injuries left, right, and center. So it's going to be fun, but it's going to be interesting. Let's start with Dean. Take us through your team, my man. Your pick.
So the transfer out John Stones purely because of the red card, and I think he's out now until middle of May or something like that. So
that was a straight bet.
Yeah, so I had to get rid of him. Connor Cody in. I called it a while ago that Wolves had 4 really easy games, and they've kept 2 clean sheets in the last 2, and they played Burnley this weekend. So kind of looking to get someone a little bit on the cheap, and he's playing well, and you guarantee he's going to play. So I think that's a decent call there. And then differential. Brighton play Sheffield, and I'm kind of hoping Sheffield go, okay, guys, we're out of this league. Let's just try. And I just hope that Brighton go run rampant. I mean, it's Danny Welbeck. It's not a great call, but if I looked at it, that's the fixture I would target if Brighton were doing semi well, but they're not. So that's why differential. I don't have Welbeck in my team, so I'm absolutely not going there.
But you're telling everyone to go there.
Yeah, you guys. That's why I use this to trick people into getting bad players and then keeping them there, so I can do better. And then captain's a toss up between Fernandes and Jota for me. I think United have got leads, so they can play well, but Fernandes has done so badly of late. I'm actually considering getting rid of him and putting in Greenwood. just for the run-in because Greenwood's on fire. So kind of might switch between Fernandes and Jota for now. Salah starting on the bench against Leeds during the week was obviously kind of worrying. So I was going to go Salah, bring him back into the team. But Jota captain against Newcastle, you back Liverpool to win there. And Jota still adds something a little bit extra. Yeah, he's also hot and cold. But hopefully he comes up with a good hat-trick against Newcastle, and then we're all good to go.
Okay. AB, let's look at your team. You also went for a Brighton player.
Yep. Because I have Edison, and I was looking at City's fixtures, and just even watching them play the other nights, they don't seem set on defense. So them being a blank this week, I think it's quite a nice time to get rid of Edison, who's at 6 or something like that, and buy a cheap keeper in Robert Sanchez, who is playing regularly. And then next week I can invest my money elsewhere. So Brighton again have Sheffield. So if Sheffield score against Brighton, then that's on me. Captaining, I have to go with Bruno. It was between Bruno and Rashford for me. I'm worried about Rashford's fitness. Hopefully he's been chilling, but yeah, Ollie said the other day that it's been a while since he asked Rashford, how are you doing? And Rashford didn't say, I'm doing fine. So yeah, we know Rashford needs to have a surgery on his ankle, probably be delayed until after the season and all of that. Or maybe even after the Euros, we don't know. And then differential is Cavani, because the man we know he's about to retire because he's like 800 years old. But when he plays for United, he does really well. His movement is probably the best in the Premier League, or best in the world. We don't know. And
we do know. It's definitely not best in the world.
and against a team like Leeds and Liverpool, those games are going to have bite, because Leeds' games always have bites, and United have a really strong opportunity here to beat Liverpool coming up, so that they end up not in a European position. And I think Ollie is going to drive that into the players' heads, and he's going to want to prove or something to the rest of the league that last season's Liverpool was just a fluke, and they're actually worse than David Moyes' Man United. But that's documented, So yeah, Edison Cavani's owned by less than 4% of managers. So go for it. He played 45 minutes. He scored a goal. He's assisting here and there, maybe. There's room for him. And then captaining Bruno. Yeah. So that's me.
So Dean's gone a little bit AWOL there, MIA. We'll just work for him to get his stream back.
Cool.
I'll go through my team.
Hey.
Yes. So I need a striker because I've got a striker crisis. Lacazette's hamstrings or quads are problematic. I'm going to wait until like the last minute to make this change. I need strikers, and the only striker that I can think of that's differential and in the price range is Cavani. And so that's where I'm thinking. I know I brought Lacazette in, I'm taking him out. And then obviously from a differential perspective, this is one I'm thinking of making. Rafinha's injured, and I need someone who's actually going to play this week. And that's obviously Adama Traore. He's gotten a couple of 3 good weeks. And those 2 weeks where, as Dean said, they had a good 4 fixtures. They've gotten 2 now, and they had clean sheets. He's gotten some points, an average of 8 points across those games. So I need those 8 points. Then obviously from a captaincy perspective, it's between Bruno and Jota. I'm going with Bruno, hoping that he can relive the magic, because obviously KDB's out, and I've tried Jota at captain, and it doesn't work. It just really doesn't work. Jota as a captain, not working at all. And so that's why I'm running away from him. I just don't know what other strikers are there in the market, guys. I know Dean's telling me about Danny Welbeck. I'm not spending money on Danny. The other person I can bring in is Ollie Watkins, but this Aston Villa now hit the skids. This is the Aston Villa we know. And so that's what my one big problem is, that I don't want to be rooting for Richarlison against Arsenal on Friday night, or DCL. So I'm kind of stuck because because Kane's injured and I'm not transferring him out. And Mason tells me that Kane's out for a long time. But yeah, so I'm a little bit stuck because obviously Kane isn't playing. Do you take him out and bring in like a Vardy? I've already got like Leicester coming through my nose. So that's where my issues are this week, is that Lacazette's injury just presents the biggest headache. Because even at Arsenal, Aubameyang's got malaria. Does that mean Martinelli starts in the middle, or is it Eddie Nketiah?
Okay.
And I think it might be Eddie Nketiah. So, and I don't want to trust Eddie Nketiah with any of my money. So that's the problem we have at Arsenal. We don't have, like, outside of Lacazette and Alba, the rest of the guys aren't that great. I'd like Martinelli in the middle, but he's more like a winger. So that's my issue. But that's what it was this weekend. Any other captaincy guys that you guys are looking at? Some sneaky captaincy picks? I know you've looked at Burnley. Is there anybody at Brighton, Dean? Is there anyone at Brighton who? Because obviously everyone's going to try and go for the team that's and try and attack them. Or is there anybody else you were missing?
I think from that Brighton side, I mean, there's not a lot of names that stick out, but you could look at, and I know we don't like enjoy captaining defensive players, but against Sheffield, they can't score goals. So you might, like a Feltman or, Lewis Dunk or something like that might not be a bad choice going there. And then also perhaps going forward, like a Trossard might, but it's kind of, if you're looking,
they're in the Champions League of XG. That's how good they are with XG.
But it's hard to justify bringing in one of these players for just a week, because that's all it will be. So I would, if you like way down in the log and like you're just trying to make up points, maybe it's kind of good to gamble. But I wouldn't. I've got the 3 players on my bench don't play. I've got KDB's son Kane. So if one of my starting 11 don't play, it's just one of those weeks. It's just the way it is. So you kind of have to ride the wave. So don't go looking for quick solutions that are going to lead to long-term problems.
Obviously, West Ham played Chelsea this weekend. Jay Lings is captain?
No.
Anybody from Chelsea?
Nope. No
I
one
don't know
from
who's going to
Chelsea.
play in Chelsea. Like, you don't know who's going to rock up or who he's going to put on the team sheet.
Mason Mount will play, I think.
Yes, we know that.
Look at the position. Look at the position he played against Brighton in the midweek. He didn't play in his normal position. He played a lot deeper. So all you're getting is 2 points. So yeah, Chelsea's tough to. I was also looking at Chelsea bringing in one of them, but again, like a Rudiger as a defensive option. He's cheap and he looks like he plays, but then all of a sudden he doesn't play. And I think they are a lot more focused on Champions League. So will be tough.
And so there's one fixture that I'm looking at. It's Leicester versus Kelechi or even Jamie Vardy are very good captaincy options because it could be the game where Leicester kick-started again. Yes, they're playing West Brom tonight, but they could kick-start it again with Crystal Palace. Because Crystal Palace right now, Roy Hodgson's got them coasting the table. It's fine. It's great. It's lovely. Nothing to be worried about. Gents, any final words on FPL this week? Anything that you are thinking people should consider?
I mean, I think if people are feeling bold, go for a Greenwood sort of captain. The kid's in hot form. He's not owned by much. And if you've got your triple captainship, play it. Why the hell not? I mean, sometimes you just got to play these chips. Mason Greenwood, man.
Oh, wow.
He scored 4 goals in his last 3 games.
You who triple captain Harry Kane, but couldn't triple captain Mason Greenwood this week. Okay.
Because I don't own him. I have 3 United players already, unfortunately.
Yeah. Dean, any funky triple captaincy things like AB or anything that you'd like the peeps to know?
I played my triple captain like when Spurs played West Brom in October. So I've got that thing's long gone for me. I got like 6 points from that. So no triple captains for me. But I think, and I said it again, I said it last week as well, I think the time to kind of try and get a lot of points out of defense is coming into the back end of the league. And I think there are a lot of teams that have decent fixtures where you can get clean sheets. So trying to get that mix right. And like Villa playing a West Brom might be a decent one to kind of try and capitalize on there. Brighton, Sheffield, we've mentioned, and then Wolves, Burnley. So I would look at trying to bring in some guys from there because they've got a little bit more longevity to them. Although Villa at the moment, like you say, it's not exactly a place you want to be. But that's the best I can do. Everyone's trying to catch AB, so we're doing our best.
Yes. Well, yes, we'll try and finish as high as possible, like me.
Yeah.
Well, the only thing I'm going to say is thank you very much, gents, for joining, and everyone for listening and watching as well. Please remember to like and subscribe on our YouTube channel. Enjoy the games this weekend. There's a Carabao Cup final on a Sunday night. That's going to be fun, and there'll be fans. I think 8,000 fans. So that's going to be incredible to view and see the fans, and not necessarily listen to what the bench has been saying, which has been fun for all of us.
How did City fly up all their fans with the pandemic?
They didn't sell out all their allocation, their ticket allocation for the 8,000.
Yeah, well, there's like 2,000 tickets, dude. Like,
well, I'm either going to be the loudest man in the world on Sunday night or dead. You will not hear from me for a week.
And that's why next week we'll be back with you, Dean, again, uncover, unpack, or try hide it, or try and downplay the fact that it is the Carabao Cup. So all the best to you, Dean, and all the Spurs fans and the City fans. Let's just close it now. Thank you very much for listening. Remember, like and subscribe. And from the three of us at the Cheap Seats, it's goodbye and le salut, kakakis.